I think on the issue of Shamba system, people are misinterpreting the words of the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Now, I want people to understand that we have two things that the government moved to stop when it comes to the conservation of environment, and for this particular moment, the forests. Now, there's a difference, and a very big difference, between logging and Shamba system. Now, one of them is to conserve the environment for the future, and the other one is to destroy the environment into the future if mismanaged. Now, let me talk about the issue of logging. The issue of logging was stopped by the government because the companies that deal with timbers had gone to an extent that they were not equating, or they were not balancing the between the trees being cut down and the trees being planted, and that was a threat to the environment. Now that is one, and that is one of the things that affected places like Molo, Elbagon, Njoro. I mean, the whole of Nakuru County was found to somehow being killed. Because if you today you travel to a place called Elbagon in Molo town, you realize that the town looks like a dead town. It looks like an ancient, one of the ancient towns that used to be productive, but as for now, it is not any productive, because one of the companies that was supporting the people of this region, or this area, Elbagon, specifically Elbagon Ward, was Team Sales and other timber companies. Like you go to a place called Salama at one of the towns in Elbagon, there were very many timberlands or timber yards where people were being employed, and more than 1,000 people were getting their food from this place. Now, this was stopped, and those people were affected. Now, the only thing that those people could run to is agriculture, which is not related to the closing of that logging system. And now I want us to speak about the Shamba system. Now, the Shamba system is simply understood as where the government goes to a government land, in this case a forest, plants tree, and then those people who live across or near that forest are given permission, or are permitted to get to those lands where the government has already planted the trees, cultivate or take care of the trees in exchange of them planting food in those forests. So in this case, my understanding is that these people are cultivating those trees for free. It's like a free service to the government. It's like a service to the government without payment, that we can simply talk of payment in kind. I'm giving you a service of taking care of your trees, while you're giving me a chance to get food from your land through my sweat. So in this case, these people were not going there to cut down trees. They were going there to cultivate for the trees. And once the trees get tall enough, or they grow tall enough to a point where the shadow is too much on the ground that no plant can survive, that is the point when naturally the farmers had to move out of that land and let the trees continue growing, or look for another piece of land where they can continue growing and developing that government project. What did the government do? Now, I don't want to get into the details of why about 2 years ago, Eriako Tobiko, the Minister for Environment, went ahead and stopped both of the two. One of them that was conserving the Shamba system, and the other one was destroying. So once the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua came and talked about returning this, I want you to intermarry that with what the President William Ruto said, that The problem we have in Kenya is not about resources. It is not about anything to do with money. Most of the problems we are encountering in the country is more about policy and not resources. Because, for example, that policy that stopped people from farming or from growing maize in those forests, or that stopped the Shamba system, that was a policy that was poorly thought about. That you stop people without thinking about where the food will come from, because these people were farming or they were planting that maize uh, for their own benefit, to eat and to sell to the people, or to sell to the country, and they were therefore reducing the risk of food security. But now, after stopping them, 1 year later, the country is crying. There is no food. The cost of energy is very high. So the little that is available is being sold at a very expensive rate, because the demand is high, but the supply to the minimum. So Rigathi Gachagua was speaking in the spirit of, one, food security, and two, cost of living. Stop the nonsense of confusing between logging and Shamba system. They are two different things.